Hello and welcome to Scott Bryson Beyond the Service. Tonight, I want to share a story with you guys when we went to Aspen, Colorado in March of 2017, I think it was, with Eric and Laura and the entire Trump clan. We've talked about this a little bit before about how good, like, not good, how great they are at skiing. So I'm not going to talk about that part tonight and how I basically ran hot chocolate ops after one run. I was like, no thanks. I'm not trying to die. But what I wanted to share with you guys tonight is I think it's kind of a cool story about how, the Secret Service, they get some stuff wrong for sure. Anybody does. It's made up of human beings. And so human beings make mistakes and human beings get things wrong. But human beings also, depending on who they are, make it work under some very interesting circumstances. And so basically, what happened is, I'm there with Eric and his crew. My buddy Al is there with Don and his family. My buddy Jason is there with Ivanka and her crew. And I don't know if Tiffany was there, maybe, I can't remember. But anyway, there's a whole bunch of agents there and a whole bunch of guys from the field office, from the Denver office that were there helping us. We brought in some real ringers to do some serious skiing with these folks because they are world-class skiers. I am not joking about that. And so, of course, there's a lot of planning. And if you're going to take the sitting president's children, even though they are adults, to the middle of Colorado to go skiing, the middle of the country in Colorado to go skiing, it sounds fun, and I'm sure it was a lot more fun for the guys kind of just working the shift and doing their thing. But I'm telling you, as a supervisor running that stuff, it was a lot of prep work on the front end, and not just by me, but by the advanced team. That's what the Secret Service does really well, I think. Of course, you take July 13th last year, and that wasn't good. But generally speaking, my experience, I did that job for 25 years. I had really good experiences, and I know how hard I worked, and I know how hard the men and women that I was around worked. So the point is, there's a lot of preparation, a lot of prep work that goes into these types of trips, because it's not like your cookie cutter. I'm getting on a plane, I'm going to Civic Center A, and I'm giving a speech. Oh no, we're out in the wilderness a lot of times, hunting, fishing trips. One time we're on a fishing boat in the Indian Ocean. I'll tell that story some other time. But this particular trip, we were in Aspen, Colorado, and everybody's doing their thing, having a good time. And again, are you worried about Al Qaeda? Probably not. You're probably more worried about something happening medically, which happened. One of Don's kids broke his arm. I can't remember which one. I think he broke his arm. It might have been his leg, but he broke something, and that was a problem. So Al was dealing with that, and we're a couple days in, and I forget if the trip was 3 or 4 days or 5 days. I forget what it was, but it got cut short a day early. We had several things go wrong. We had a kid break a bone, and then something happened where Ivanka needed to get back because she and Jared were senior advisors for 45 at the time. He's 47 now, thank God. But at the time, they were senior advisors for her dad, and they need to get back for something. And so we had taken one of the Trump planes out there. It was just easier to, corral basically the whole family onto their 757 and fly them out. It was just, trust me, that was much easier for us too. And flying on Trump Force One was never bad. That's what we called it, Trump Force One. Big, nice 757. So we get the word I think in the early afternoon that we need to go back. We've got to go back to D.C. and drop them off. And then, of course, because they're senior advisors living in Georgetown, so we got to get them back to D.C. And then, of course, we all got to get back to New York. So the trip got cut short by a day or two. I think maybe just one day. But the moral of the story is we had these plans. Everything was planned out from like day 1 to day 5, right? Or whatever it was. And you get a phone call saying, hey, we're going back as soon as we can, like 3 or 4 hours. So now you're scrambling to let DC know which is the first thing you need to do. You got to let DC know, hey, we're coming in hot. And then, of course, you got to let New York know, because that's going to be our second stop and our final destination. So there's just a whole lot that you don't just say, oh, okay, and we go get on an airplane. And I think that's probably hard for people like them. And then, listen, they were amazing. They were never rude. They were never anything but gracious. But I know that being Secret Service protectees probably put a damper on their lifestyle, because up into us, they're like, oh, we're doing like anybody else. Like, we're doing this. Okay, we're doing it. They just might have different means, right? So if you want to go on a trip, you book a trip and you go get on an airplane at the airport. But then Secret Service puts a whole nother layer on that, where you can't just, well, this is what I'm doing. Well, there's a trickle down effect. There's a ripple effect, Well, because when you land, no one knows we're coming, so there will be no cars, and there'll be nobody at the house waiting on. I mean, just all kinds of things. I don't want to get into too much, but there just won't be there won't be any way to make it happen. So you have logistics are very important, and a lot of times that gets overlooked. So being administratively sound is super important. But yeah, I remember my wife had come out for that trip, and I was, trying to spend a little time with her, because I was living in New York, she was still in Virginia, and I can remember going, oh man, so I was a little deflated, because that was, one less day I was going to get to spend with my better half. But hey, it's the job, right? It is what it is. So the point is, the Secret Service requires you to be extremely flexible, especially as a working agent. Now, I was a GS-14, so I was a supervisor at that time, but still kind of entry level, you know what I mean? It wasn't like I was making decisions for the service in general. I was a worker bee still. I had gone from NCO to officer, I guess. But still, there's a difference. Like, the officers leading the guys on the ground, and then the head sheds making the decisions back at headquarters, a little bit different. And so I just remember that trip being super eventful, which we never like. The Secret Service wants things to be uneventful and boring. And that detail was never boring. I can promise you that. We had some really good trips, have some great memories. I could tell stories on here for 2 hours and not even touch the tip of the iceberg. Just an amazing family. I was surrounded by amazing co-workers, people that technically worked for me, but man, it was just the one team, one fight mentality was what got us through it. And I don't understand why we can't have more of that in other places. I've been looking for that for a long time. I had it on the football team, I had it at the police department. You have to have it at the police department. You're in a patrol car by yourself, and you have to know your buddies, even if you don't care for each other personally, because you don't like everybody. Everybody doesn't like me, even though I have a charming personality. And not everybody likes each other, and that's the way it goes. But when it's work time, you have each other's back, and I was looking for that camaraderie, and so I found it on the CAT team, and then I really found it when I was the kind of the leader of the circus there for those 15 months with the Eric Trump detail. I had some amazing experiences with some of the best men and women I've ever worked with. And of course, the protectees were just outstanding human beings. They are outstanding human beings. And so it made my life super easy, even though when the details of life got in the way, like, oh, we're going back to DC in 4 hours. Let's make it happen. Okay. It just, it's going to happen one way or the other, but it makes it go a lot smoother, so to speak, when everybody's pulling their own weight.